right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first Lunch and Learn for the Home Builders Association of 2021. We hope to see you all in person sometime very, very soon. But until now, we have Zoom. Zoom is our friend. My name is Christina Giamatti. I am the Vice President and soon-to-be partner of Safari Insurance, formerly HTT Insurance Agency. I'm going to MC the event today, and we have a speaker or presenter today is Jim Beaver with Auto Owners Insurance Company. So I'm going to introduce him in a little bit, but I would like to see who all is in the room today. It looks like we've got 16 people on the screen now, and I think there were 35 registered, so we might have some people pop on as we get started here. So while I'm doing that, or while we're waiting for a couple more people, I'll just let you guys know about a couple of other events that are coming up. Next month's Lunch and Learn is how to build a top-notch sales force, and Nathan with Pella is going to be presenting on that for next month, so keep your eyes and ears open for that. Our Lunch and Learns are traditionally held on the third Wednesday of every month. So keep your eye on the calendar there. I am also the co-chair for the E3 board at the Home Builders Association, which is formerly the Associates Council and the SMC Council merged together, and we're now the E3 board. So if you're ever looking for an opportunity to get more involved in the Home Builders Association or volunteer on a committee, please get in touch with me. Let's start to go around the room, and I'm just going to kind of name people as I see them on my screen, if that's okay with you. And first, and if you're not speaking, if you don't have the floor, if we could all have everyone be on mute. Mute is your friend when we're dealing with Zoom. And it looks, Carly, it looks like there's a couple people in the waiting room if you'll let them in. Natalie, would you like to get us started?
Hey, Christina, I'm Natalie Conover with Cincinnati Stair. So I chair the Professional Development Committee, which puts on the Lunch and Learns. So we're really excited about this new year and the topics that we're bringing to you guys. So hopefully you'll be able to join us as often as possible. Thanks.
Thanks, Natalie. Melanie.
Good morning, Melanie Meyer with the Home Builders Association, Member Relations. If you ever need help and Carly can't help you, by all means, jump in and let me know. You can contact me by phone or by email. And yeah, welcome today. It's good to see all your faces.
Mike Wilkerson.
Yes, Mike Wilkerson. I'm with National Design Mart, flooring company here in town, full service. Get everything you need as far as flooring. My role is business development and business relations. So we're growing, which is great, and we're actually nice people. So nice to see everybody today.
Good. Jason.
I'm Jason Goodall, your funny financial nerd with Goodall and Peters Financial Advisory Group. Ta-da!
Awesome, thanks. Scott Baker.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Well, morning still, I guess, everybody. Scott Baker with Premier Bank, your premier source for new construction financing. I'm also a member of the Professional Development Committee, the Tabletop Committee, and also a new member to the E3 board. And there's some people on here I haven't met yet. So hi, everybody, and enjoy the show.
Got Gene.
Hi, everybody. My name is Gene Peters. I'm the Peters part of the Goodall and Peters group. I'm also on the Professional Development Board. Looking forward to the presentation.
Jack.
Hey, everybody. Jack Brunmore. I own Junk King here in Cincinnati and Dayton. And what we can do, I'm new to the association, so I just wanted to check this out, but we can help anyone remove anything from their home, yard, or business, whether it be one item or 30 years worth of stuff, and then we bring it back to our recycling center, sort it, send it to nonprofits, and recycle what we can't donate. So we'd love the opportunity to help some of you out.
Awesome, thanks, Jack. Sydney.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sydney Shootman. I'm the outside sales rep for Mont Surfaces.
Cindy Peters.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cindy Peters, Heart Labs CPA Advisory Group. I'm also on the Professional Development Committee as well.
Bill, is it Roble?
Yeah, that's right. That's correct. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, with Reading Rock, actually just started about a month ago. Hello to you all. So I am a residential market manager. So basically doing anything from bricks, blocks, stone, fireplaces, etc. But yeah, new to the organization, obviously. So hello and looking forward to the meeting.
Andrew Mercusio? You're muted, Andrew. Andrew, you're muted.
Sorry, is that better?
Yes.
So I am a new member, Andrew Mercurio. I'm with CAI Insurance as a risk advisor. I'm looking forward to being a part of this and seeing what Jim has to say. So thank you.
Alex Weber?
Hi, actually it's Tina Maddox. I'm on a different computer. So with Kimba Realty, just looking to learn a lot today.
Great. Kim with Corkin?
Hi, everyone. Kim with Corkin Steel Products. I am the Business Development Manager and have been a member of this association. This is our second year. And I just want to say thank you for keeping us busy during the pandemic that we've been going through for a lot longer than anyone anticipated, I think. So thanks for having me.
Thanks, Rick. Is it Inesta?
Yeah, that's me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm literally making lunch while I'm talking to you guys. So my name's Rick. I'm with Springhouse Structures, a new builder to the area. I've actually been, my soup is burning. Hold on, I got to move it. Been actually in the industry for about 30 years. We're also an architect firm located in Springboro, but looking forward to getting more involved in the Cincinnati market.
Great, thanks. The definition of a lunch and learn. Rick is doing it right now.
Yeah. I figured you don't want to see me cook lunch, so.
Thanks. Mark Bubash.
Afternoon, everybody. I'm Mark Bubash. I'm an independent insurance agent. I insure homes, businesses, autos, events. Basically, if you see it, I can insure it. And I'm also a colleague of Christina's at Safari Insurance. Nice to meet everybody.
Thanks, Mark. And Mark Elsa, are you on the line? On my screen, it says Mark E. No? Okay. Carly, is there anybody else in the waiting room? Anybody else that we need to let in? No.
Not at the moment.
Okay. Okay, so Mark, I think that's Mark Elsaw. His microphone isn't working, so he'll be listening in today.
Okay.
So again, my name is Christina Jamati with Safari Insurance. We write commercial insurance, builder's risk, general liability, errors and omissions, malpractice, and we can do workers' comp in the state of Kentucky. So if you think you have to be a member of the BIA to get workers' comp in Kentucky, I can help you out there. Some of our contractors are talking about that because City Rama is going to be over in Newport in 2021. So get ready for that big event. We look forward to having a lot of people there. And with that, I'm going to introduce our presenter today. So while he's presenting, I'm going to ask that everyone mute your microphone. If you do have a question, feel free to unmute when the opportunity presents so that you can go ahead and ask that question. And then we'll leave some space at the end of the meeting for questions also. So with that, we have Jim Beaver. Jim joined Auto Owners Insurance Company in January of 2015. He was one of the first senior loss control consultants hired in the newly formed Auto Owners Loss Control Department. Jim is carried a safety after graduating with a bachelor's degree in occupational safety and health from the state of Indiana University in 1982. Jim worked in the manufacturing sector of plant safety management with large automobile parts in a manufacturing company. Later, Jim joined Loss Control, where he has 25 years of experience. His extensive background in the motor carrier accounts and previously working with heavy transportation accounts has brought him where he is today with Auto Owners. Jim truly enjoys working with accounts to improve their risk management programs and reduce losses, and more importantly, reduce worker injuries for workers and illnesses. With that, I'm going to send it over to Jim. Thanks a lot, Jim.
Thank you, Christina, and thank everyone for allowing me to come and present to you today. I appreciate the opportunity. Yes, I've been in risk management safety for all my career. Christina said I went to Indiana University. Actually, I went to Indiana State University, so I don't know if my bio is incorrect or not, but anyway, it's not too far apart. Terre Haute and Bloomington's only about 40 miles separation between the two. All of my bad influences went to IU, so I thought I'd better go to Indiana State so I could buckle down and possibly get through 4 years of college without flunking out. So anyway, I look forward to presenting on risk management practices for residential construction. We are an insurer of contractors that are in the building trades. We insure subcontractors, we insure general contractors. We provide loss control services to those companies as they need it or if it's requested. I've been on many residential construction sites where I have, witnessed some unsafe practices, obviously, in my career, and I've also witnessed job sites that are well run and safety practices are in place with the proper controls to prevent losses. So with that said, I'll share my screen and begin my presentation. So yes, as I said, I'm with Auto Owners Insurance. Auto Owners is located in Lansing, Michigan. We have about 5,000 employees working in our company around 26 states. We have several branch locations, one of which is in Lima, your state, where our branch office is. And then I work in Indiana, where the Marion branch up in Marion, Indiana is located at. I work directly for underwriting, and I also have a report to a loss control manager in Lansing, Michigan. His name is Bob Schneider. Bob hired me and another loss control consultant first, and then we've been steadily building our loss control department. Now we're at about 26 loss control consultants, all of which have various backgrounds and experience levels. So several of them are actually fresh out of college. We have a mentoring program that we work with our consultants and try to get them up to speed so they can get out to a territory and start doing loss control work for our insureds. So I want to begin by talking about understanding risk. Risk in construction can be any loss. Those losses can be a loss of money, lost work days from injured workers, construction delays due to outside forces such as weather, natural disasters, windstorms, tornadoes, fires, substandard materials or workmanship from subcontractors. So basically, though, you have to understand if you're a risk manager or a construction owner that it's impossible to eliminate all risk, but it's important that we try to at least identify the risks that we're aware of. So with risk comes reward. Obviously, the bigger the risk, the greater the reward. With that said, the construction manager or construction company owners must be able to understand the risk of a project in order to determine if the risk is worth the reward. Generally, in the construction industry, in residential construction, usually the risks are a little bit less complicated than it would be like in a large commercial construction project where you have multiple floors that are being built, or you may be building on a substandard soil surface that you have to take into consideration for compaction to make sure the building doesn't settle or tilt or something of that nature. So, you know, residential construction is a little bit less complicated. In risk management, there is what they call the risk management cycle. There are various different kinds of risk management cycles. Some have more steps than others. I chose one that is pretty much standard for the construction industry. And we'll take a look at that, each one of these in detail. The first one is identification. Obviously, you have to identify your risks in order to be able to take measures to prevent a loss. In doing so, you have to do an assessment of the risks to determine what the degree of the risk exposure is and whether or not it needs to be prioritized to be a high priority or a less priority risk to take into consideration. You have to implement controls, which is what I do for a living. That's why they call us loss control. Those are various things like administrative controls. It could be, you know, safety equipment on a job site as a control. And these are things that we discuss with our insureds when we're on job sites talking about preventing losses on their construction sites. You certainly have to have a review process to determine whether or not the controls and your assessment have been accurate and working properly. And we'll get into these each in identification first. So what are your risks? Well, as mentioned, it can be many things, such as weather. Obviously, you that are in the construction business know that weather always plays a significant factor in how your job sites progress. So we have to plan for weather events various times of the year, obviously. Certainly, if you're in the framing contracting business, wind is your enemy, and you have to make sure that you put the proper bracing in your framing so it doesn't get blown down during the process. We have a lot of losses associated with wind as well as fire, which is another big hazard associated with buildings that are under construction, especially those that are frame construction made out of wood. Obviously, building materials. Theft is also a exposure that contractors have to be aware of. Trespassing on job sites by unauthorized persons. Certainly inferior building materials or poor performance of subs have to be identified, hopefully you know, early on before it becomes a major problem after a structure has been built. So that is something that, you know, the general contractor or the home builder has to be aware of and monitor. Other examples of things that in the identification process would be worker accidents resulting in serious injury or death. Certainly you need to have the proper safety measures in place and training of your employees and subcontractors that you use on your job sites. There are regulatory exposures on jobs from the authority having jurisdiction of your building projects that you have to identify and be aware of, that you know, you have to take into consideration. Certainly Occupational Safety and Health Administration and enforcement actions resulting in expensive fines. So those are all things that have to be identified and controlled. During the assessment phase, once risks are identified, you determine the likelihood and consequences of each risk. You develop an understanding of the nature of the risk and its potential to affect project goals and objectives. The assessment should be shared with all stakeholders about the project risks and how they will be managed, monitored, and controlled. With this approach, you try to leave nothing left to chance. So in the control phase of a risk management assessment or a risk management cycle, what is the impact of a potential risk occurrence will have to the project, and how much will it impact your reward? Controls can be many measures taken following the assessment process to reduce the impact or eliminate the risk entirely. Examples, implementing a subcontractor qualification process to ensure your subcontractors meet your high standards. Hiring subcontractors that have experience in the tasks that need to be performed to construct the dwelling in a safe and cost-effective manner. During the review process of the risk management cycle, this is a continuous cycle that must be determined. You have to review and see if your controls are working. Has any situations on the job site project changed? And if so, what can we do about it? So there has to be a continuous review of your risk management cycle during a project to identify any issues that come up during a construction phase of your building. Transfer of risk, you hear that often in the insurance industry. We have all seen construction risk transfer agreements that are asked to be signed by general contractors directed to their subs to hold them harmless in the event of any and all claims associated with their part of the project. Now, there is a news flash, and nobody likes to have to sign these agreements, especially subcontractors, which are asked to be signed before any work begins. But don't get me wrong, they have their place as a risk management technique in transferring risk and liability. But there are other ways in which to run a construction company with subcontractors and persons who are pre-qualified and hired to do a specific task, which are better equipped and experienced in handling the risk. So that's where the pre-qualification phase or pre-qualification can come into play and be very effective in, you know, vetting your subcontractors to make sure they do have good safety programs. They're their employees are well trained, they're financially stable, and are meeting your high standards before you hire them to do a particular task on your project or your building. That could be your foundation contractor, your roofing subcontractor who has had a track record you can feel good about with regards to risks associated with their building process. One thing in risk management is document control, especially on complex projects. Document control is a backbone in construction management, including construction risk management. You need to have a documentation system that will effectively improve workflow, ensure you're delivering your projects on time, and with at least amount of risk and loss. Today, the technology must be leveraged to improve document control and control risk. This can be done with software systems that allows every stakeholder to have access to input data and documents that are critical to the flow of the project. With the reduction of the paperwork burden, you will have more time free to spend on job sites to conduct quality, productivity, and safety audits and work on your higher level tasks to mitigate risks. One thing that we do as loss control consultants is we're very much interested in job site security, especially if we're ensuring the contractor, or if we're actually underwriting the entire building project with the project. So we take a look at job security. Sometimes old school is the best way to protect a job site from thieves and trespassers in combination with new technology. One way of doing that is putting up a fence around your job sites if feasible. Now I know that a lot of residential construction, you don't see fencing. I have in my career, I have some builders, home builders that do put up fencing around their projects, especially if there are, it's in a subdivision that has got people living in it. There may be children in the area, so putting up a job site security fence is a good way of keeping trespassers from coming into your job site. Posting signs for no trespassing, installing video surveillance systems. Today there are wireless cameras that can be used to be placed inside buildings that are under construction, that can be actually tied to a cell phone so you can monitor a job site. There are motion detectors with these surveillance systems, so if somebody walks into a job site or a building, residential construction, that would set off an alarm, sending you a message that you've got a trespasser in your job site. The use of GPS tracking devices for equipment. We have a lot of equipment theft with construction sites. Building materials are also stolen off job sites and have high value. Another thing that is very important is to schedule material and equipment deliveries and pickup of equipment carefully. You don't want to have material sitting on a job site for too lengthy periods of time, allowing thieves to be able to come on site and steal that material. A lot of contractors will rent equipment, and that equipment is usually delivered by the rental company. And sometimes the rental company is not very good about picking up their equipment in a timely fashion, and it can be left on a job site for a lengthy period of time, allowing thieves to come in on the job site and steal the equipment. So it's very important to make sure that you've got a delivery schedule. Again, as quickly as possible, during the construction phase, the framing phase of a residential home, you want to try to, button up that home as best you can with maybe plywood. You want to put maybe some 2x4s over the windows to prevent trespassers from entering the building, those kind of things. I mentioned earlier about pre-qualification for subcontractors. For a building owner or construction company, general contractor, or a building homeowner construction company, you need to have a good pre-qualification program for your subcontractors. What specifically has your program accomplished? What factors should you consider managing your pre-qualification programs? Most residential home builders specify expertise for the tasks that they are hiring subcontractors for, whether it be a framing contractor or a foundation electrical or a roofing contractor. They need to take a look at their safety programs. Do they have a good track record as far as accidents are concerned? There's a lot of factors that you can take a look at in doing a pre-qualification of your subcontractors. One thing that I wanted to cover today in my presentation is fall protection. This is a standard that often gets abused and doesn't, contractors don't always follow the letter of the law as far as fall protection is concerned. Fall protection is covered under 1926-501. The agency's interpretation of residential construction for purposes of the 1926-501 standard combines two elements, both of which must be satisfied for a project to fall under that provision. The end use of the structure being built must be a home, a dwelling, and the structure being built must be constructed using traditional wood frame construction materials and methods. The limited use of structural steel in a predominantly wood framed home, such as a steel I-beam, to help support wood framing does not disqualify structure from being considered residential construction. Traditional wood frame construction materials and methods will be characterized by the following: framing materials, wood or equivalent, cold form steel, metal stud framing, or not steel or concrete, wooden floor joists, and roof structures. Exterior wall structures such as wood or equivalent cold form sheet metal stud framing or masonry, brick, or block. Methods, traditional wood frame construction techniques must be employed. So the residential construction fall protection requirements, employees that are working 6 feet or more above lower levels must be protected by conventional fall protection methods, such as guardrail systems, safety nets, or a personal fall arrest system, commonly called a PFS system, or an alternative fall protection measure allowed by the provisions of 1926-501 for particular types of work. An example of an alternative fall protection measure allowed under 1926-501 is the use of warning lines and safety monitoring systems during the performance of roofing work on low slope roofs. Commonly you will see ropes with flags on the top of a roof, indicating a leading edge of a roof. So the workers have to stay inside that rope line and cannot get on the other side of that rope line without having proper fall protection on. OSHA allows the use of an effective fall restraint system in lieu of personal fall arrest system. To be effective, a fall arrest system must be rigged to prevent a worker from reaching a fall hazard and falling over the edge. A fall restraint system may consist of a full body harness that is connected to an anchor point at the center of a roof by a lanyard or a link that will not allow a worker to physically reach the edge of the roof. So there's a lot of different devices out there today. We've come a long way in fall protection over the years. There are various ways of putting in anchorage points in residential buildings as they're being constructed. I've seen them use nylon connection devices that are actually nailed into the eaves of a house as it's being built, allowing the roofers to be able to attach their lanyards. That's one method. When the employer can demonstrate that it is infeasible or creates a greater hazard to use a required fall protection system, a qualified person must develop a written site-specific fall protection plan in accordance with 1926-502K. That, among other things, specifies the alternative fall protection methods that will be used to protect workers from falls. Employers must follow 1926-501, states that workers engaged in residential construction, as I said earlier, 6 feet or more above lower levels shall be protected by a guardrail system, safety net system, or a personal fall arrest system, or by an alternative fall protection measure allowed under the 1926-501 for a particular type of work that's being done. Conventional fall protection systems that are often employed during construction of residential buildings are guardrail systems. Sometimes safety net systems. You don't see too much safety net systems used on residential. I think you would probably see that more in a high-rise situation than you would in residential construction. Personal fall arrest systems, that would be your body harness lanyards that are attached to an anchorage point, are often used on residential building construction. The requirements for guardrail systems include top rails 42-inch plus or minus 3 inches. The top rail must withstand 200 pounds of force. That's basically an average man weight for that top rail. Mid rails halfway have to have 150 pounds strength, along with the surface of the guardrail must be smooth or covered to prevent lacerations or snagging of clothing. You're not allowed to use any kind of steel or plastic banding according to the standard. Safety net system requirements as close as practicable, no more than 30 feet below, meaning you can't fall any farther than 30 feet. That's the top amount that allowed under the standard. Sufficient clearance to prevent contact with surfaces or structures below, and the net has to be drop tested or certified for a fall arrest system. A PFAS must include the following: anchorage, point, body harness, connector lanyard. A PFS must also include a lanyard and a deceleration device or lifeline. For those of you that don't know what a deceleration device is, it's basically a clutch system that is in line with the lifeline that allows a person to fall a few feet before the clutch engages and stops the fall from happening while it's in progress. Here's an example of a roof with a personal fall arrest system anchor that has been attached to the roof. As you can see, there's a turnbuckle along with a steel cable that will allow for the workers on the roof to attach their lanyards with a hook on the end of their lanyard to that steel cable so multiple people can work on a roof at the same time. Anchorage is used for attachment is critical to the success of your fall protection system. That has to have a 5,000 pound strength to it, which sounds like a lot, which it is, that is used to be used for an anchorage point. There needs to be a competent person qualified on the job site that understands how to properly install these anchorage points. that has to follow the employer and the manufacturer's instructions and recommendations, or a registered professional engineer for proper installation. Here's a picture showing a full body harness. Now, several years ago, body belts used to be allowed, which was basically a belt that went around the waist. Those were not allowed any longer and are now illegal for use. And the reason is that the body belt caused serious injury to the person that is falling, because the force of the fall was being transferred to a person's midsection and was not being transferred across their shoulders and back, causing serious injury. There were cases of people falling out of that body belt when they fell to the ground because it was not properly cinched up tight enough. So even a body belt has to be put on properly. I've been on job sites and I've seen workers have them on very loosely because they don't want them on tight. And I've pointed that out to many job site foremen that they needed to go through proper installation of body belts again, because their workers were not wearing them properly.
So, hey, Jim, when you're looking at loss control for falls, I was talking to an assistant fire chief, and he said that they get called most of the time because of falls. What would you say is the biggest offender violation when you're out there doing loss control on a job, of what they could have done differently to prevent that fall from happening? Like the most common that you see?
Well, yeah, funny you mentioned that. I've got some examples here in my presentation, but I would say a lot of times it's lack of installing railing, especially on second floor levels, and also during the framing process, open floor hose for stairwells in residential buildings that are being constructed or multi-floor. There's no railing around that to prevent a worker from backing off and falling to the level below. So that's probably the most common that I see. Or you just see blatant total non-use of any fall protection on some job sites. Unfortunately, there are still some contractors out there think that they can build residential buildings without having fall protection measures. So it runs the gamut. I think you have a device where you can raise your hand. I want to see how many people think this is a fall hazard. There's a little button there. You can say you can raise your hand. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, employers also have the option of having workers work from scaffolds or ladders or aerial lifts. So all of these are considered alternative work methods. But the answer to this particular scenario is yes, this is a fall hazard. You got a guy, what they're doing is they're setting up a scaffold and they've not got any fall protection on. So the standard says that you have to have the use of ladders or aerial lifts in order to erect scaffolding safely to be in compliance with the 1926 501 fall protection standard. Workers can fall, obviously, from climbing on a shoring or structure to set it up and remove it. As I said, ladders and lifts must be provided. Is this a fall hazard?
For sure.
Answer to that one is yes. This is a situation where you've got an open, sided opening on an upper level where a worker's working. He has no fall protection on. He's exposed to a fall that's greater than 6 feet while working near stairwell openings. This is a common hazard that we see on building sites under construction. Also, sometimes they cut holes in floors for HVAC that's got to come up through a floor. You'll see holes in a floor deck that are not covered. Many times there's been accidents involving contractors that fall through those kind of holes. Those have to be covered. A lot of times they will cover them with inch-thick sheeting plywood, and then sometimes they'll use spray paint and just paint the word hole on it to alert employees or workers that there is a fall hazard there. Here's a situation where a building or a residential home is being built. You got a worker that's working on the upper level. Probably, it looks like maybe that's over a garage area. I don't know. But anyway, there's no guard railing there on that particular project. So this obviously is higher than 6 feet. The guardrail system, safety net system, or personal fall arrest system is required for that worker to be in compliance with the fall protection standard. Here's a case of a guardrail without a mid-rail. That's a violation of the fall standard. It looks like maybe there's a tow board there. It's hard to see in this picture. So they answer the question, this is a fall hazard here. The photo shows a mid-rail and a tow board are missing on an open-sided floor or building. This could result in a fall of approximately 12 feet here in this particular scenario here. As I said, tow boards are required. A tow board basically is a 2x4 generally that is nailed to the floor, and it's positioned on its edge. That keeps any materials or anything being kicked off from that floor level down to the bottom floor level where there may be workers working underneath there that could get hit in the head. So that's why tow boards are required in any guardrail system. We've all seen this unsafe act by workers that work on job sites, and maybe we do it at home too, I don't know, but standing on top of the top step on a ladder like this is not permitted. So this is a fall hazard. Worker is working off the top of the step ladder. The top of the step ladder should never be used as a step. This one is an interesting photo. This is basically a guardrail, or not a guardrail, but a scaffold, and it has a lot of hazards associated with it. A worker is working from a carpenter scaffold that has no guardrail, extends too far beyond either end, and is not wide enough. Not sure, obviously you can't tell whether that particular board that he's standing on is even a plank board, what we call it in the safety industry. A plank board is a certified board that's used in scaffolding that has been tested for strength. A lot of times you'll see contractors use just any kind of lumber to fashion a plank board on a scaffold. The worker also does not have proper access to the scaffold. I have no idea how this guy got up there the way he did without falling. It's amazing. Not only that, he presents a hazard to the guy that's working below him as well. From falling hazards, from this guy falling off, or any tools that he might drop. Also, another fall hazard in this picture, you see a guy that's standing there in the window there. There's no guardrail across that window. Under construction, you are required until windows go in to have a railing across those windows to prevent somebody from falling out of them. So that's something that we look at when we're on job sites as well, doing inspections. Is this a fall hazard? The answer to that question is yes. This worker's working on an 8-12 pitch roof with only a lifeline tied to his waist as a fall protection. That's illegal. That's not a fall protection system that meets the standards of the OSHA standard on fall protection. You're required to have a full body harness on that's anchored to a anchorage point that is 5,000 pounds tested. So the employer should provide fall protection equipment for his workers. This looks like obviously a roofing contractor that's peeling off a roof on a building.
Hey, Jim, sorry to interrupt, but we've got a few more minutes and then we're going to have to wrap it up. So I just wanted to give you a little warning there.
Okay, this is my last slide, actually.
Perfect.
One thing I wanted to cover quickly is something that maybe you're not aware of under the multi-employer citation policy for OSHA. Under the multi-employer citation policy, more than one employer can be citable for a hazardous condition that violates an OSHA standard. An employer that exposes one of his employees to the hazards created by an unsafe condition may be subject to an OSHA citation. In these situations where an employer's own employees are not exposed to a hazard, that employer may be subject to OSHA coverage if the employer qualifies as a creating, correcting, or controlling employer. So if you're a general contractor and you're on the job site and you are directing your subcontractors, then you can be cited along with a subcontractor possibly that has got a safety violation on that job site. There is a two-step process that's used to determine whether more than one employer may be cited for a hazardous condition. And there are steps that they go through in determining this. So if you are a home building company and you are acting as the general contractor, then you do have some exposure under this multi-employer citation policy possibly from the acts or unsafe conditions of your contractors that are on the project. So I appreciate, thank you, and appreciate you allowing me to come in and speak. I'm here to take any questions on anything that I've covered here today if we have time.
If anybody's got a quick question, otherwise it's 12:30. I know some people on the call have another meeting scheduled right at 12:30. So with that, if nobody has anything, I just want to thank Jim for presenting for us today, the first Lunch and Learn of 2021. Mark your calendars for February the 17th, Lunch and Learn with Nathan from Pella. He's going to talk to us about how to build a top-notch sales force. Thanks a lot, Jim. I appreciate your time. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next month.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.